Hey folks, how you doing out there? Darren here with another Drink and a Wink info new view. That's a new little term, talking about a new whiskey. It's really tough to get reviews of new whiskeys that just kind of come out, especially when we're talking about single malt Scotch whiskey or brand, big, all brand name bourbons. The new release kind of concept doesn't always happen. Some companies will go away for a little while. In recent times, I'm thinking of newer distilleries putting out new products. We've been able to do that, but I don't get a chance to, talk about something that's, a month or two old. I think what we're going to talk about today has only been out about a month. It's only been in some of our stores here in Chicagoland for the last week, and we're going to talk about it. And it's going to be an interesting one because it's a brand that I have talked about with maybe some, hot and cold vibes, and it's going to be Johnnie Walker's blended Scotch whiskey. We are going to talk about their new offering called the Black Cask right here. Interesting whiskey that I've been hearing about, reading about, listening to the actual master blender, Emma Walker. Yes, Johnnie Walker, no relation, but she's been a master blender there and been a blender for about 20 years. Emma Walker talking about this new product. And of course, if we're going to talk about a new product, we have to kind of also talk about the flagship of a certain brand. And for my money, and for most people's in this history of time, we're going to talk about the infamous Johnnie Walker 12 Black Label, which we've talked about many times, and sometimes I've been kind of iffy on it. Let's see, where do we start here? First off, as you know, when we're talking big brand name blended Scotch whiskeys, there is no bigger one than really Johnnie Walker in terms of presence and just kind of popularity in terms of getting it in your local grocery stores and things like that. It is owned by D&aW, which is also with some kind of the biggest spirits distributor in the world. D&aW has been around for a long time, and the name has, but in 1997 the Guinness Company and a couple of different companies kind of all came together. Now D&aW has 200 brands under their name. A lot of them are going to be the ones that you I think this one is under their brand name, the tequila. They have Smirnoff, I think, is in their portfolio. Johnnie Walker, a bunch of single malt Scotch whiskeys that you might not have heard of because they use them for blending rum. This is a huge company. Single malt whiskey comes to mind is Lagavulin and Talisker and Oban. There's others. Again, some of them have lower profiles because they're used mostly for blending Scotch whiskey. It's not my favorite company in that they do have a tendency to take some good stuff and kind of water it down for a more palatable or saleable bottlings or offerings. But I have always come back to Johnnie Walker 12 over here as a really interesting, little bit funky blended Scotch whiskey. This Black Cask, as I'm going to make some kind of irreverent comments about some of this here today, I'm going to be irreverent at some point, is interesting because it's almost as if D&aW, I'll give you the good and the bad. First off, if big names, Johnnie Walker, Dewar's, Chivas, Cuddy Sark. I'm a Dewar's person. I like the Dewar's products. They also have Stephanie McLeod, female master blender, which is great. They've been putting out a lot of new offerings and bottlings. They've had the Smooth series that I've talked ad infinitum about. They have upped their 12-year-old to a very interesting product. Right out of the street, I'll say I enjoy that over the 12 for the most part. But the 12 always comes back to me. I'll get to that. But the Johnnie Walker line is interesting is because they have, first off, all of them are currently in the permanent stages are all blended Scotch whiskeys, with the exception of Green Label, which runs in the $65 to $70 range these days. Maybe it's down to 60. It's hard to say. Green Label is a malt blending, and it's all single malt Scotches. And for more Scotch aficionados, that's kind of the last holdout as kind of their favorite. But that's changing as well. Then at the very bottom, they have the Red Label. The Red Label is simply, I don't even really know why it exists. It exists for the front of the liquor stores. If you can buy a Scotch whiskey, it really is just for blending. And I don't know that many people that blend or mix a lot of Scotch whiskey cocktails these days. I've tried it once by itself, and that was all I needed to. The next level up in the permanent series has always been, in terms of price, has been the Johnnie Walker 12 Black Label. There you go. Okay, 12-year-old whiskey. Grain whiskey obviously in there, but some consideration for the single malts that are in there. There is a touch of, or there's probably Kalila these days, or for a long time, which is a peated Scotch whiskey, which gives a little bit of smoky nature. That's the Black Label. Okay, it's been around since 1909 when I came up with these label concepts. And then we go up, like I said, Green Label. There's an 18-year-old, which has a gold label. I think there's a gold label, and the 18 is separate. That also has a gold label. It's a little confusing. Then, of course, at the top of the pyramid for the doers is the Blue Label, which is not a malt blend. It is a blended Scotch bottled at 40%. And for some odd reason, they like to price that at the price point of $200 a bottle. Now it's probably more, likely more with the tariff stuffs and all that kind of stuff. Had it once, only once. Michelle's had it actually a couple of times at a party. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to buy, no matter what it is, 40% ABV whiskey at $200. And if it's a green whiskey, I don't really understand what they're doing. They don't even have an age statement on it. So I don't know. It's very much a kind of premium brand, with maybe the product not being quite so premium. All right? So that's it. Then, I think it was about 15 years ago, they did what's called the Double Black. Now, 12-year-old, has some smoke on it, has a very caramel or a Coca-Cola note to it. They put enough colorant. They put just as much colorant as you possibly put in there to keep it legal. It is to age 12 years, but that's had some colorant added. It is chill filtered. It's bottled at 40%. Okay, but what's the bad news? No, what's the good news? Good news is it's a very consistent product. The flavors and recipes. Again, recipes. There's no change in the recipe of the base malts. They're using some grain whiskey. They're using some single malt whiskey, and they're blending that together. The key is where are they drawing from to make that recipe? And for the most part, you got some peated whiskey. You got a little bit with some sherry. Okay, you have another one with some sherry notes. Then there's just ex-bourbon cask, and that's how they make the blend. Okay, it's consistent. I don't want to say recipe. Let's say the blending components change a little bit, but for the most part, tastes somewhat the same. Okay, I had a bottle that was D&aW. Okay, so it was later than 1997, but there was no element of any kind of web address or anything of that nature on there. My parents had it. We downed that a couple years ago. We had it right back to back with a I guess that time it was a 2021 bottling, something in that nature. It was after COVID. I remember that we finally kind of like paired them and tried them back to back, and I ended up actually liking the new one a little better. That old one from the pre-internet days was opened, was sealed closed. My parents did a great job of it, but it was close enough that on a blind, I don't know that I would have picked it. So it remains fairly consistent. The Double Black came out because they wanted to make even more smoky note and even a kind of a heavier, so sweet and smoky, just a little bit more aggressive kind of popping smoky notes on it. I'm not a big fan of that one. It kind of reminded me of what Jack Daniels does with Gentleman Jack. Yeah, it's smoky. When I mean smoky, I'm talking really about like charred barrel notes on that. which also turns into something that gets a little too sweet for me. I know that Mike here, I don't use last names normally, also has it, and is not a huge fan of it, but that's the double black. So so now in recent times, they've also had some ones that have come across. They had the Jane Walker, which was using more floral and fruity notes, which actually I think we had 2 bottles of. No, I think we may only had 1, and we actually enjoyed that. But that has gone away, interestingly enough. That was a nice bottle, though. So finally, in recent times, they have introduced a new, what they're calling a permanent bottling, and you have a lot of colors in the color platform, and you have a black label, you have a double black, you have a gold label, you have an 18 that has a gold label. So what did they do? They called it Black Cask, and they put a gold label on it. I don't know why. But the goal here, from what I'm understanding, is to make a whiskey that is more palatable for the American taste profile, and really essentially not make a Scotch bourbon, but lean that way by only aging in ex-bourbon barrels. So where this has a combination of peated whiskey from Kalila, and then some different distilleries that I won't, maybe Glenlawsey, Linkwood, you don't know these names, doesn't matter because they mostly do blending. But there's going to be ex-bourbon and ex-sherry in this one, and that gives it a different kind of flavor that certain days I really like. Okay, this one is just ex-bourbon. Okay, there is no age statement on this. Okay, this is a higher grain whiskey content versus single malts. From what I understand, from the Collinswood, I can't remember what grain whiskey they use. This has to be a good one. I have never had it, but it's a higher grain note. What else do we know about this? Interestingly enough, they have kept the same bottle size, which is kind of interesting. I always like this bottle. It's an interesting shape. It's really square. You can hold it in a hand well. It goes in a bag well. It travels well. And when you have a mix of round and tall and then squat bottles, this can kind of fit in there. And I like that kind of single label with the strolling man on there. That's a Johnnie Walker standard, having that on there. A couple of little notes here. This has matured exclusively in bourbon cask for a smooth finish. Now, Johnnie Walker bottles, all the things that I've mentioned, I can't remember the ABV on the green label, so I apologize for that. But red is at 40%. 12-year-old is at black label is at 40%. Double black is at 40%. Blue all the way up at the top is at 40%. This is at 40. I can't tell. So I have my contacts in. It's always a little harder for me to read. But if you're going to bottle this at a couple of points higher, at 43 or 42, Michelle took off her reading glasses, put her reading glasses. Maybe make that just a little bigger. All right, I can't read it. No matter how much it looks like 43, it could be 42. Maybe if you're, Emma Walker or somebody else from D&aW watching it says 43, man. But I can't see it with my contacts on. I can see that this says 40 right there. It actually looks a little bigger. But keep that in mind, because if you're going to bottle it with a couple points higher, why not show it off a little bit more? Okay. No age statement on this one, so we don't really know the ages, but we get that bump up. Price-wise, right now they are selling Black Cask at the very same price that Johnnie Walker 12-year-old is. One thing that's always been in Johnnie Walker's nature, or number 12 nature, Johnnie Walker's 12-year-old nature, the Black Cask, or I'm going to get, boy, take 2 on that. There's my clapper board. Take 2 of that. One thing that has been in Johnnie Walker Black Label 12's favor is that the price tag has always remained, right now it's $35. This is also $35. So what they've basically tried to do is create a completely ex-bourbon using a little more grain. It's probably going to be corn, so we're getting towards bourbon a little bit more. Okay, it could be more than one grain. It's not a single grain, I don't think. But there you go. We're talking about Scotch whiskey that's been geared towards bourbon fans, American fans. Last thing is, from what I understand, they put this thing all together and they made the blend, and then they realized that it was lacking a little something. So they did go back and add some Kalila, the infamous kind of not so well known Islay Scotch whiskey, and they add some of that to add a little smoke back into it. Kalila normally has kind of a maritime kind of seaside sea salt, a little bit of seaweed flavor, and we'll see if that blends with this. All right. A little water. On the nose, nothing overwhelming. Because there's not any of this, there's much less of a peated smoky element in this than the Black Label, the 12-year-old. I'm not really getting any hint of that. It's really kind of hard here to tell this is a Scotch whiskey on the nose. And instead of me kind of couching things, because I want to like every whiskey that I try, I don't really try to bring you any junk. I'm going to say this: neither of these are going to be my favorite whiskeys, but this one has definitely found a place for me. Let's see if this one does too. But the nose is pleasant, a little bit of oaky notes, nuts, a little bit of banana, but that's it on the fruit element. Warm, spicy. No, spicy is wrong. It's not spicy. There's just a little bit of nutmeg and cinnamon, but it's not something that is spicily like all these spices that Michelle has here from the Spice House. On the taste, a little darker, a little richer than I actually expected. This is definitely an ex-bourbon cask vibe. Got some corn notes here. I really like it in a way. On the end of the taste, it gets a little sweeter, a little bit of rich cracker, a little bit of creme brulee there. On the finish, finish goes away pretty fast. A deeper chew, so to speak, does one thing going well for this is the alcohol. That little added 3 ABV does pop through when you hold it a little longer, and that's the trick. You put it in your mouth right away, you gulp it. You're not going to get these extra elements. Is it worthy of holding for long? Yes. It has a little bit of a sour note on the end, and that might be all of Johnnie Walker. I'm not quite sure. Yeah. Just to kind of change the palate a little bit, let me have some 12. Right away, we can tell that there has been some sherry cask added to this. There's more fruit and raisin and a little bit of apricot vibe there. The smoke does come on a little bit more. It has a caramel note. I want to say that because I know it's colored a whole lot, but it has a caramel note. I don't mind that. And then there's this towards the end of the finish. Sorry, towards the end of the taste as we move to the finish. That's where a little leather note, kind of old school. This has been drunk in studies and libraries and boardrooms and all that, and it's like I read a description today of 12 that it's not pipe smoke that was just blown in your face. It's walking into a room and pleasant pipe smoke. A pleasant smelling pipe tobacco was smoked in the room a couple hours ago. And that's definitely, now I smoke a pipe once in a while just for fun with my buddy Corey. That's definitely there. As you can see, I know what this is going to taste like, and that's what I'll get into when I kind of finish this all up. Yeah, 12 is, it's Johnnie Walker 12. It's just what it is. It doesn't change. I like it. Back to the black label, or Black Cask. Boy, it is confusing. So they were really trying to draw out the bourbon cask influence of this. They can't use the word bourbon. I guess you can't really have a brown label. Brown. I don't know that anything has a brown label in the world of whiskey. I'm probably wrong. Brown is not great. I don't know what other word I would use. Anything with like a caramel or anything of that nature makes it sound too sweet. So I guess we're okay on this. It's just a lot of different blacks. You got double black. You got black label. I don't know. Beige has got a bad tone yet, but this is beige whiskey. Don't necessarily mean it's bad. Let me wrap this up a little bit. This is very pleasant to drink. This could go a long way. I brought this to Easter, and a couple of people that, well, other than my sister, she's just never going to drink. She's never going to like whiskey, unfortunately. I'm trying. I'm going to try to do that. She has some interest in mezcal, actually, so if I duck my head and she happens to be watching, I'm going to get her a bottle of one of the Del Maguey's soon. I think she'll like that. But a couple other people that had it enjoyed it. Another friend of ours, one of our family grandfathers, not mine, he likes to drink whiskey. I've got him some bottles, or just a couple of little things, you know, end of the bottle kind of things. And he, if you happen to be watching, he enjoyed it. He's got good taste, and he enjoyed it. But this is not outstanding crazy whiskey. I'm going to wrap this up and tell you what Black Cask is. Black Cask is, here in the States, this is Scotch whiskey for bourbon lovers. I would prefer to just, Scotch whiskey is different from bourbon. Sell it. Don't try to fool people into it. Fooling is the wrong word. I understand what they're trying to do. They are not the only company that is trying to do this. Case in point, I don't have to go very far to pull this bottle up. And I like this bottle a whole lot. Triple. This was the Jameson Irish whiskey that is bourbon cask, sherry cask, but then it is finished in chestnut cask. In a lot of ways, I kind of feel like these two are trying to be the same thing. Okay, this is Scotch, this is Irish whiskey, but they're trying to do the same thing. This would be really tasty as an alternative in certain cocktails. Great. Could I sip this all night? Yes, because it's easy drinking, and that ABV gives a little help. Let me come back to this. The reason, like, there have been times where I said, I'm never buying it. I'm sure there was a video last time when we were talking about blended Scotch whiskey where I said, I don't need to buy Johnnie Walker 12 again, and obviously I bought it again. Because it's like, it's one of those things that's just very standard. Let me try to see if I can place it in there. Sometimes you like to go to a nice, privately owned restaurant. Let's just talk about burgers. There's McDonald's, okay? And even McDonald's serves its purpose. There's probably a McDonald's bag around here when I come home late and I can't get anything else in our area. There's McDonald's. Then there's Five Guys, or there's Fred Rucker's isn't around, or Culver's, or whatever these. That's kind of this, okay? That's that second tier, In-N-Out if you're in California or whatever. I think they're supposed to be coming here. I don't know. Anyway, that's what Johnnie Walker Black Label 12 is. It's good, competent whiskey that you know is going to taste exactly the same, okay? If you go to Five Guys, or you can even say that about all the things I talked about, or Coca-Cola Classic, you know what that tastes like. And there's a little cola vibe in Johnnie Walker 12 that I just do not get in this Black Cask. Very nice, pleasant. You can sip this at a party. I prefer this smoke on this. It's great. I love it. No, I like it. Okay, it's a good solid thing. You don't always need, a gourmet hamburger with, fancy cheese and, blah, 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 mushrooms and all that kind of stuff. I love that. I have a lot of that. Sometimes I just want this. Secondly, my favorite Scotch whiskey drink, the Rob Roy, which is again just a Manhattan, but with using Scotch. This one is great because there's just a little hint of smoke that gives it a nice little puff. At the end of the night, because I'm not going to finish these, I'm going to pour these into a glass. So I'm going to make myself a Rob Roy. We'll have a little blend of it. All right. Back to the Black Cask, the new one. I see what they're trying to do. I think they did it. There are a couple of reviewers out here, Mark Gillespie from Whiskey Cask, that gave this a 94, to be quite honest. I would not give it a 94. Our tastes are a little different, but maybe he's rating it in what they were trying to do, the price point, and did it work. I would say that if they were trying to make a Scotch whiskey that would be a little more palatable, still remain Scotch whiskey, blended Scotch whiskey, with a lot of grain, and give it a slightly sweet and nutty flavor that you might not get from their 12. I say they've succeeded. The bottling at 43% is a bonus. Don't know how old it is. Doesn't taste young, so maybe it's got some 5, 6 year, 7 year age on it. We don't know. If they put the age statement on, then they're about a new product that limits it to how much they're going to do. That's one element of it that I'm kind of aware of now that I never knew. You release something new, you say it's 8 years. If it becomes really, really popular all of a sudden, and you at that age thing, then you are limited to what you can do when you're making the next run of it or the next batch of it or whatever. If you're making something permanent, sometimes they back off on that and don't put the age statement on it. A classic example of that is some of the things that Glenmorangie has done, where they went from a 10 and they bumped it up to a 12. They've never gone down that I'm thinking about it. La Santa used to be, I think, 10, and then they moved up. And Quinto Ruban went from 12 to 14 or something like that. I can't remember. But that's one element of it. Sometimes it's not just, in these lower prices, these more kind of, they want to sell a lot of them. Sometimes that's the reason. So it doesn't taste young in any way. It's not wild. It's not challenging. It's what it is. A nice Scotch whiskey that could get bourbon lovers to maybe buy this. Will I buy another one of these? No, I will not buy another one of these. I said that about the Johnnie Walker Black Label. I have other things that serve this purpose. What it's doing, right on. I might substitute this for an Irish coffee. I might try to go with a Scotch coffee, and this would hold up really nicely. It's interesting. It's tasty. You can finish this whole bottle. Not you should. I don't mean that in like alcoholic drunk way, but smooth. Smooth. So it's interesting. Do you need to run out and buy a bottle of it? No. If you're not a Scotch whiskey fan, and some of the stuff I've talked about, when I use the word like phrases like challenging and all that, that's a little interesting. I don't know. I'm going to give it, because it serves its purpose, I'm going to give it a solid 8. Right down the middle, 8. It's a little higher than probably what I've given this. I'm going to bump up Johnnie Walker Black Label 12 again. Because again, this one, part of it is, like I said, my parents, neither of my parents were really Scotch. I hear that my mom's always a mystery. We hear lots of things about her, and she used to like drinking Scotch and soda when she was younger. But this is the one that I found in the cabinet, their small liquor cabinet later. The first Scotch whiskey I ever had when I was drinking it because I was having braces issues was Cutty Sark. That's a different thing. But I'm going to actually bump up Johnnie Walker 12 to 8.1, so I'm going to give that a little higher rating, only because it fits in the hand. It's nice and solid, and the taste profile, I know what it is. And the other thing about this is when I do make my Rob Roy's, I really promise you, I really love it with this one. There's something about it. You know, other whiskeys. I tend to use, one more thing. When I make my Rob Roy, which is just, again, 2 parts, just 2 ounces of Scotch whiskey, 1 ounce of a good sweet vermouth, a couple of dashes of Angostura bitters. I add a little bit of orange bitters, blend it all up in a shaker with ice. Don't shake it, stir it, so opposite, do a Bond opposite, James Bond opposite, and stir it. And to stir it, you could use an orange in there, or orange slice, or cherries like I do. I like to use a really kind of pungent, dark fruity, sweet vermouth on that. Antica, I don't know, forget it. So because of that, I don't like a real sweet Scotch whiskey in that, just because then it's a lot of sweetness. So that's why I really love Johnnie Walker Black Label 12 for that. That's why I buy it again, because that's my blending whiskey of choice. This one would work good if I'm using Dolan sweet vermouth, or a sweet vermouth that's just slightly sweet, not really like what I use is, or let's say less pungent. Okay, vermouth. All right, I'm going on and on, and we're getting into the half-hour range. 8.1 here. 43% kind of wannabe bourbon qualities there. Again, it has a profile, it has a character, but it's not anything really exciting. $35. You might try it if you're new to Scotch whiskey and you've been drinking bourbon. Give it a whirl. Just know that when we're talking about whiskey like this is grain whiskey, and there's blended or single malt Scotch in there, which is barley. If you're a bourbon fan and you're expecting that kind of note, no, it's not. It's still Scotch whiskey, which is great. Michelle commented she had a little taste of this, that she said to me, she said, sherry? And I said, no, actually, that's exactly what they were trying not to do. And then she's like, cherry? And I said, exactly what they were trying to do. If you like that little note of some bourbons that have a little dark cherry note, it's in there. All right, folks, this is a lot of fun. I've been waiting for this a long time. I know people were like, why does he care about this like $35 whiskey? It's just a lot of fun to try something new. And I got to give it to Johnnie Walker. I will admit, and these big brand names, I haven't seen a whole lot of innovation coming from Chivas Regal in a whole lot of ways. It's been a while since they put that 13-year-old Manchester, which was really good. I guess that's gone. Cutty Sark does have the Prohibition era, which has a totally different profile from this. Good one. But that's about all they do. Dewar's has really been crushing it with the new releases, but they have actually backed off a little bit since that Smooth series and a couple other things. So it's nice to see Johnnie Walker try something different. And I know the intent is there. And if I listen, sometimes you listen to master blenders and they don't know what they're talking about. Emma Walker over there knows what she's talking about. She's been doing it for 20 years, and she knew what she was doing here. That's cool. All right, cool little experiment that if we're going to make it permanent, I don't know. I might buy another one. Cool. All right, that's it. Johnnie Walker, Strolling Man. Strolling Man. I can't.